Hi, we're Isaac and Stephanie Meek, and we're really excited to more or less introduce ourselves to you guys. This won't really be a donut post, this is more of a get to know you type of thing. Most of our best friends know the story of how we met, and many of them tell us that we need to share it more. And so this is that story. So way back in 2002, I was playing for myself, like I was the lead singer of my band, and playing a show at a place in Nashville called Third and Lindsay. And after the show, this girl came up to me and she was like, wow, that was a really amazing show. Would you be interested in quitting your band and joining me on the road? And I thought, no, like I love what I'm doing. And I was like, I'm sorry, like thanks for asking, but no, like that's not something I want to do. And so I was like, hey, let me just pause you. I will definitely help you. I will help you find your guitarist. And person after person was just turning it down, and it was the wildest thing. And the more that was happening, the more I kept being like, God, am I supposed to do this job? And I felt like I heard God say to me, you don't have to do this, but if you do, you'll meet your wife. And so I quit my band, and I joined up with this artist, and I went on the road with her. And in a year and a half, I met 0 potential wives. Like, not a one. Fast forward, we were in New York on September 7th, 2003 to play a show with Radio Disney. My eyes are out and I'm like looking down the street and I see this beautiful girl walking down the street and I'm like, oh my God, be cool. And this girl walks straight up to the stage, straight up to me and asks who's playing. And I legit froze. I was like, I couldn't speak, and so I pointed at the sign for like the event and then went back to fidgeting at my guitar. And I was like, oh my God, this is the most amazing moment of my life. I had no game, like whatsoever.
So it was 2003, and I was a student in New York City on the Upper East Side, and it was a Sunday afternoon. My roommate had texted me and asked me to come meet her. So we're walking down the street right in front of Gristedes on 68th and 2nd. There's a little stage and like a Radio Disney sign, and I see this shiny blue guitar, and I see some diesel jeans, but the most important thing I saw was gorgeous long blonde hair. I just bolted right to the front and asked him right away, hey, who's playing? Because I wanted to know what his band was and who he was. And he, not politely, barely even caught eyes with me, just looked at the sign and pointed to it, and then just kept on tuning his guitar. And I took that as a rejection, and my roommate was like, wow, okay. And I was like, no, he's taking me to dinner tonight. Like, that's not acceptable.
Our set was 12 songs. And on the 10th song, she winked at me. It was like the first time like a legit like wink, not my mom, had that I'd ever like received like in my life. And I was like, oh my God, this girl likes me. She winks at me and then she just walks away. And as soon as we were done, I was like throwing my guitar down. I was like, I've got to like chase after this girl. And the dude who was playing bass like right behind me was doing the exact same thing. And I was like, hey, what are you doing? And he goes, dude, did you see that hot Asian girl? And I go, yeah. And he goes, she winked at me. And I put my hand on his shoulder and I said, bro, I'm pretty sure she winked at me. And between the two of us, we knew. Like he was immediately like, yeah, she probably winked at you.
So when Isaac was playing his set, I told my roommate we're gonna go, and she was like, why? What? You guys seem to really have a connection. He can't stop staring at you. Like, it's in the bag. He's gonna take you to dinner.
He has no game.
And I was like, no, just trust me. And we walked away, and when the set ended, I saw Isaac jump off of the stage and like come looking for me. And she was like, wow, he really does want to see you. And so we went back, and we rendezvoused back at the stage, and Isaac was super nervous, and we exchanged phone numbers. That night when Isaac called me, I was actually sleeping because I had broken out into hives, massive hives, like one on my eye and then
Cute.
All down my body. And so I had taken Benadryl and I was completely passed out. So when he called, I would have normally not done this, but I said, can you come back in an hour? And he was already downstairs. So he did, and I believe that you circled the block.
Yeah, I literally walked around like 2-block like square praying for literally an hour.
I guess he was nervous.
So one amazing thing though was I walked for an hour praying, and then she buzzed me up, and I came up to her apartment, and I was like, oh, this is crazy. Like, I have no idea if this girl's like a good girl or a bad girl. Like right when I like go into her apartment, the door of her room had a scripture on it, and I was like, oh, like she knows the Lord. This is gonna go so well. And so anyway, yeah, I went up and got you, and then we came down.
We ended up sitting at this park with a couple of park benches, and it overlooked the river, and it was a beautiful night. And it was about 3.5 hours that we just sat and talked about all the things about life. Just God, music, family. And I kept thinking to myself, this guy, like, when is the jig up? He is too good to be true. And so just listening to somebody who is so genuine and interested and engaging was, I mean, I was definitely swooning.
You were hooked. Hooked. So the really crazy thing about it all, though, was that I felt like when I took this job, that if I took it, that I was going to meet my wife. Literally, we came back from our show in New York, and I got a call like 2 days later saying, hey, we're going to take the artist in a different direction. We're going to keep paying you guys, but we're not going to do any more shows. And that show ended up being the last show that we ever played. Not only that, like, because they paid all of our expenses and they paid everything. They paid for our whole life. I had been able to save up enough money to be able to come back to New York or bring you back from New York literally every 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't possible for me to have met you before then. Like, before then, I wouldn't have been able to afford it. I wouldn't have been able to quit. There's so many like things that were building to get to that point where God was able to introduce the two of us. And it was it's such a divine thing. It's such a divine moment for me.
He's faithful to what he says.
Yeah.
It was a wild year for us, being long distance, back and forth from New York to Nashville every 2 weeks. So grateful that Isaac had the money to do that, and I had a little bit of money to do that, but it was commitment because this was before the tech age. This was before iPhones, texts, FaceTime, and Skype.
We had AIM.
We had Instant Messenger, and we had email.
Yeah.
Like the Pony Express days. So we were committed, and it was like, seriously, like movie times. We would meet in Penn Station, we'd run towards each other, we would kiss on the subway, we would kiss on the street corners. It was magical, truly.
It was. It still is.
And then after 4 months, Isaac got down on one knee at that same park bench, and the snow started to fall, and it was like midnight in Manhattan. So we were the only ones out. The whole city was quiet, and the snow fell, and Isaac got down on one knee, and he read me a poem, and he asked me to be his wife. And I said yes.
One of the best moments of my life. There's many things that I really love about the story of when we met, but the thing that I go back to the most is just the faithfulness of God. Mm-hmm. All my life, I wanted to meet this perfect woman, and there's no such thing as like a perfect person, but at the same time, God had a plan, and he was preparing me, he was preparing you, and when you look back, it's really easy to see. And I think it's really important for us, but honestly for anybody, to look back on those moments where God's been faithful to them. And I'm just so thankful, like looking back, that you were there and that I was there. Mm-hmm. And you can trust God. Like, you can trust God with your heart, you can trust him with your plans, just like Proverbs 3:5 says.
Which was on my door.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, in all your ways acknowledge him, and he'll make your paths straight.
I would have never thought that meeting Isaac on that street that day would lead us to having 5 girls and a bakery and living in Nashville and being able to tell our story and share the faithfulness of God. So the more open-handed you live, the more open-hearted you live, just know that God's plans are even better than the ones we have in our hearts.